Did you know that Piper once considered joining the Hunters of Artemis? Now, this may seem surprising, but it is true. If you've been on my channel for quite a while now, then you know that I currently have a series of videos for little known facts about characters. I've done this for a few Riordanverse characters like Leo Valdez, Jason Grace, Annabeth Chase, and even to Coriolanus Snow from the Hunger Games. And in this video, I thought, why not continue the series with Piper McLean, a character from the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo series. Before getting into it though, there may be spoilers for the books after this point, and with that said, let's get started. Starting off with number 10. Piper is a vegetarian. This is a fact that gets overlooked quite a lot, mainly because it was only mainly discussed in The Lost Hero or the first book of the Heroes of Olympus series, so a lot of fans forgot about this idea after reading the next Riordanverse books. But the fact still remains. Piper is a vegetarian, and in The Lost Hero, we learn that she decided to be one after passing by a meat processing factory as a kid. The rest of the 7 seems to be aware of this too, as in The Lost Hero, we see Leo cook vegetarian food for Piper when they were on the quest to save Hera. Number 9. Piper's name origin. Piper's name origin was revealed in The Burning Maze, or the third Trials of Apollo book. There, Piper tells Apollo about her uncle Tom, who gave her the name Piper because of her high vocal voice when she was a baby, and he believed that she would play the biggest tune of them all when she was older. Looking deeper into this, the name Piper is actually an Old English name meaning pipe player, and is a reference to the story of the Pied Piper. Interestingly, Piper is also a synonym for a bird species called squab, or pigeon, and dove, and this is pretty cool because Aphrodite, or Piper's mom, is also called Lady of the Dove. McLean, on the other hand, is a Scottish or Irish surname that is a variant of the name McLean, which is actually rooted in Gaelic, and it means son of the servant of John. Number 8. Piper's singing ability. I think as a fandom, we usually associate Piper with her charm speak ability because she constantly uses this power throughout the books to fight monsters. And although that's true, we also forget that she can actually sing really well. We see this the most in the Blood of Olympus, or the last book of the Heroes of Olympus series, when Piper sang to the creatures known as Kekrops, and both Jason and Leo thought that her voice was beautiful. This was seen again in The Burning Maze, when Piper added Charmspeak into her singing, and managed to entrance Caligula's forces to the point that they were too distracted to even attack her. And given that she was literally named after her incredible singing voice, it's kind of surprising that her singing isn't talked about as much. Number 7. Piper briefly learned sword fighting from Hazel. Ever since The Lost Hero, Piper is often associated with her knife Catoptris, and it's pretty understandable because Piper does become a fierce knife fighter moving forward in the books. But speaking of Catoptris, I actually made a quick video on that knife, and I'll link it down below to those interested. But anyway, back to Piper, one thing that gets completely overlooked is a scene from the House of Hades. There, the 7 encounter Zethys, or a demigod son of Boreas, and after a fight against him, Piper actually managed to get his sword. Now with the sword, Piper took it upon herself to learn more combat abilities, and because of this, she actually learned sword fighting from the Roman demigod daughter of Pluto, Hazel Levesque. Hazel and Piper trained together on the Argo too, and Piper was getting pretty good at it, until she lost the sword in the next book, or the Blood of Olympus. So overall, Piper is mainly a knife fighter, but she was also pretty good with a sword for a while. Number 6. Piper can speak French. This is a fact even I almost forgot, mainly because Rick never really utilized this ability in most of the books, but it is canon. According to the Heroes of Olympus, all Aphrodite kids like Piper are naturally fluent in French, simply because it's the language of love. Number 5. Piper once considered joining the Hunters of Artemis. Now, this may seem surprising, but it is true. Piper considered joining the Hunters of Artemis very briefly, which is very surprising for a demigod daughter of the love goddess. Piper liked the idea because of the promise of immortality and as an escape from the dangers of being a demigod. However, this didn't really last long because she realized she had to swear off romance and men forever, but it is still pretty surprising that she actually considered it. Number 4. Percy, Piper, and Annabeth are the only ones in the 7 whose mortal parents are alive. Each of the 7 demigods had their respective backstories and lives before the prophecy brought them together. And if you think about it, almost every member had a death in the family, except for Percy, Piper, and Annabeth. And let's go through it. Let's start with Jason Grace. Jason was born to the Roman god of the sky as Jupiter and the mortal woman Beryl Grace, who passed away after getting into a car accident while drunk. Second, Frank Zhang. Frank was born to the Roman god of war Mars and the mortal military soldier Emily Zhang. Emmy sadly passed away in a war in Afghanistan, and that left Frank to be raised by his grandmother, until his grandmother also unfortunately died in the Son of Neptune. Third, Leo Valdez. Leo was born to the Greek god of craftsmanship Hephaestus and the mortal woman Esperanza Valdez. As revealed in The Lost Hero, Esperanza died in the fire that Gaia started, and this haunted Leo for the next years, because he was convinced that he killed his mother because of his fire abilities. And fourth, Hazel Levesque. Hazel had a pretty complicated relationship with her mother, Marie Levesque, and her father, Pluto. Long story short though, Marie was manipulated by Gaia into resurrecting a giant, and Hazel sacrificed herself to stop this from happening. This also unfortunately led to both of their deaths, and the only reason Hazel is alive today is because of her half-brother, Nico D'Angelo, who believed that Hazel needed another chance at life. Looking at all of this though, Jason, Hazel, Leo, and Frank all lost their mortal parents before the series even began. And that's like half of the 7 demigods. And Piper, Percy, and Annabeth all still have their mortal parents. Percy has his mother Sally Jackson, Annabeth has her father Frederick Chase, and Piper still has her father Tristan McLean. So honestly, they're kind of the luckier side of the 7. Number 3. Piper's blowgun. Another weapon that Piper has is a blowgun. This is pretty easily forgotten by a lot of fans, mainly because we only see Piper use this in one book, The Burning Maze. There, we see Piper use a blowgun during her quest with Apollo and Meg to find the Oracle of Erythea, and it has a brief but notable history. We learn that Piper got this from her grandfather, and it's a family heirloom that reflects her Cherokee ancestry, and it was pretty effective in a fight. Piper used this to knock out the guards outside the Burning Maze, and even used this against the powerful sorceress Medea until it was eventually destroyed because of how intense the fight soon became. Number 2. Piper was the fastest demigod to get promoted to head counselor. In The Lost Hero, we met Drew Tanaka, a demigod daughter of Aphrodite, who was also the head counselor of the Aphrodite cabin. Drew was shown to be stuck up, rude, and shallow. She and Piper almost immediately started fighting in The Lost Hero because both of them liked Jason Grace. And given this, Piper greatly disliked Drew, especially since she saw how the rest of the Aphrodite cabin pretty much feared and obeyed Drew. But by the end of the book, Piper had had enough of this. After being successful in her quest to rescue Hera from giants and fighting bravely in the Wolf House with Jason and Leo, Piper gained a newfound confidence in herself to challenge Drew for the head counselor position. Piper called Drew to a fight to become the head counselor, and Drew didn't even put up much of a fight. She literally surrendered after hearing the news of what Piper did on that quest with Leo and Jason, and from there, Piper became head counselor. With this, Piper is the only demigod we see so far who actually challenged the head counselor, and at the same time, she's the fastest person to be promoted to head counselor so far, because it only took her a couple of days in camp. And last but not the least is number 1, the extent of Piper's Charmspeak ability. Piper's signature quote-unquote weapon is her Charmspeak. This is a special ability of Aphrodite children that allows them to persuade or even hypnotize people to make them obey you. This was a skill Piper had to constantly develop throughout the series, but once she got the hang of it, she was actually really dangerous with it. From what I can see in the fandom, some people tend to underestimate Piper's Charmspeak, which is why I decided to dedicate this section of the video to explain just how deadly she is with this power. The very first instance we see of Piper's Charmspeak is what happened before the events of The Lost Hero. It's revealed that Piper actually stole a lot of things pretty easily because she was unconsciously using her Charmspeak whenever she spoke. And yes, she was doing this unconsciously from the start, and she only realized her power when she arrived in Camp Half-Blood and learned the truth about being a demigod. In The Lost Hero, we see a little bit more of the strength as Piper uses Charmspeak to put Gaia back to sleep that somehow managed to delay Gaia from fully waking up for a bit, and even partly helped Jason go back to life after seeing Hera's godly form. Although both instances weren't really fully effective, as Piper even acknowledges that it only helped slightly, it was still a show of skill on her part, and this power would only become stronger as the series progressed. By the House of Hades, Piper actually did something pretty insane with her Charmspeak. She was able to wake up Festus the dragon just by talking to him with her Charmspeak, when Festus was completely knocked out. Other pretty cool Charmspeak moments also include the following. Piper freezing a room full of Caligula's men when adding Charmspeak into her singing in the Burning Maze. Piper was able to make the Eidolons swear to not go back to the Argo II in the Mark of Athena just by speaking to them. Piper was also able to stop Percy and Jason from killing each other when they were possessed by aliens through this power, and she got so used to this power over time that in the Burning Maze, Piper uses charm speak even casually, like how she easily stole a guy's car for Apollo and Meg and getting into Jason's all-boys boarding school. Piper did this without much effort, which really shows just how much she's grown accustomed to the power, and we can imagine that she will continue to be powerful as the books go on. And overall, that's a list of the top 10 little-known facts about Piper McLean. So how about you? Do you have any other facts about Piper? Let me know in the comments down below.